Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of a Blitz game number 376. I was black here, my opponent played d4. I decided to go for the solid d5, and after the Queen's Gambit, the Slav defense. So a very respectable way to play, and now knight f3, the main move, which clamps down and prevents me from playing my win-hour Gambit, which I play when I get the chance. That's the move e5. So that's out of the question now. So I just continue normally with knight f6, knight c3, and e6 going into the Semi-Slav. It is possible to take here, and that is one of the main moves, taking and developing the bishop to f5. That's a second choice here. But Semi-Slav, very respectable and solid way to play. And now e3 is the most common move here, and the way I like to play, leading to the Moran variation after the bishop moves and there's an exchange on c5. But my opponent played bishop g5, a slightly sharper way to play, and leads to some interesting play. Now, I didn't play the most common move here. I played more solidly with knight bd7, but h6 is interesting. It's used to be thought this forced the exchange. Bishop takes, queen takes, e3, so that this pawn gets defended, but black has won the bishop pair. But white has a good position here too. He's got active pieces, and this bishop, even though I have the bishop pair, this bishop is going to be a little bit difficult to develop. So that would be an interesting way to play. But it also, there's another option for white here, which is just to drop the bishop back, and after the exchange here, play e4, going for the pin, trying to take advantage of the pin on the knight. One move forward to take advantage of the pin on the knight. So g5 is pretty much forced. The bishop drops back, and now b5 defending the pawn. So black has gained a pawn and is trying to hold on to it, and white can just continue developing with bishop e2, or he can try knight e5 here. The interesting thing is that even though black is a pawn up, white's development is very harmonious. He has control of the center and good squares for all his pieces, so he has compensation for the pawn. The engine still favors black by a little bit, but an interesting way to play. It's a little bit tricky for black to defend this complicated position with his pawns kind of scattered over the board. So anyway, those are other ways to play. I avoid those complications after bishop g5. I just play knight bd7, defending with my knight. And now e3 is the normal way to play here, and we go into some calmer variation. But he took the knight right away. Probably a mistake. Let's see. Yeah, the main moves here are e3 to defend the pawn, or c takes d5, just getting rid of that hanging pawn by exchanging it out here. And there are other ideas like queen b3 too. But taking is not in the opening book, and it probably allows me to equalize. I've kind of gained a tempo over that other line because I wasn't forced to play h6, so I've got like a free move here. And also my knight's on f3 rather than my queen, which is probably a slight improvement. So now, yeah, the engine rates this as just about even. So he plays e3, and I go bishop d6. We get some normal developing moves. Bishop d3, and after the bishop moves, I take. I didn't need to take there. I could have left that. But I was still playing in the style of the Moran variation. So this b5 move, maybe in this particular case, is a mistake. It gains a tempo on the bishop, but it leaves this backwards c-pawn. But anyway, it's a game plan I'm familiar with. Like I said, it resembles the Moran variation. So anyway, the bishop drops back. I play a6, and both sides castle. And then white pushes on with e4, with the immediate threat of e5, forking my two pieces. So drop the bishop back, and now e5. I'm not so worried about this. This is a good square for the knight. Rook to c1, putting indirect pressure on the backwards c-pawn. I defend it with the bishop, and in an ideal scenario, I would push the c-pawn forward, and I would have a good diagonal for this bishop. But he's kind of clamped down on this idea, and he plays bishop e4 here. Could I play c5 here? I guess I still can't play it. Yeah, it just is not a good moment. I would be losing a pawn here, perhaps. Well, it's not entirely clear, is it? Because the bishop defends and the queen defends. Let's see what would happen. New variation. Okay, yeah, maybe I should have pushed c5 here and just gone for it. And the engine rates this as about equal. If he decides to take, I take back with a pawn. He can grab here, take back with the bishop, and I do manage to hold on to this pawn. I guess it leaves me with the kind of an isolated queen's pawn, but that would have been one way to open up the position for my pieces, is to play c5 right there. Instead, I played queen b6, trying to prepare it, and he really surprised me by taking the knight here, and I took back. You see the advantage shifted towards black with that move. So I have the bishop pair, and this bishop for the moment is not doing a whole lot. It's trapped behind the pawns, but eventually I'll be able to liberate it and it'll become an active piece. So anyway, he plays a3 immediately, and I went with b4. It looks like I was maybe rushing that move a little bit. The engine wants to play rook to c8 or bishop to c6. I thought, well, b4 anyway. I need to open up some squares for this light squared bishop. But he can go knight a4 here, kicking my queen. It's a little bit awkward. I played the queen forward to b5, and then he goes knight to c5, hitting my bishop. And I played rook a to c8. Apparently rook f to c8 is better. Rook a to c8. He plays a4, hitting my queen. It's just a little bit awkward for me. The queen has only one square it can go to, queen to c6, and now it's in the glare of this rook. I guess this position is still okay. It's rated about even, but it definitely felt a little bit uncomfortable here. Had b3 holding onto his pawn, and I played a5 here, just stopping these pawns from coming forward and perhaps opening a square for the bishop, although it turns out I didn't take advantage of that. Anyway, queen d2, and I played bishop takes c5 right here. Yeah, I'm not sure about this move. Looking at it after the game, it looks like this bishop a6 idea is a better way to play. If he takes this bishop off, I'm not so worried about that. That's about even. And this is the bad bishop in this pawn structure anyway. It's not clear it can do a whole lot, even though it's finally got to an open diagonal. So if it just gets traded off for this good knight, that's not so bad. Instead, I took with the other bishop, and this is probably better for white. He immediately takes here, hitting my queen, and I make a mistake here. I went to d7. I really just forgot that this a pawn needed defense, and I was worried more about defending the rook here. And so he just grabs a pawn. So black is in the driver's seat, although apparently it's better to play rook f to c1. That's interesting. You would think grabbing a pawn would be pretty good, but I get counterplay. Once he grabs this pawn, I get my rook up to c3. The engine likes that move, huh? But, I'm counterattacking his pawn, so it's kind of a free-for-all. We're trading punches, but with an edge to white with good play. But he played his rook back to c5 immediately, and now the advantage switches a little bit, because I can grab this pawn for free. What's the best way to continue? Maybe rook to a1, try and get the other rook into the game behind the a-pawn, which is actually a passed pawn now that he's taken that taken my a-pawn. He's got a passed pawn on the a-file. So maybe that's the strongest way to play. Anyway, he played rook to c3, and so I can grab his pawn, and now the material is even, and we both have passed pawns, so it turns into kind of a sharp position all of a sudden. Rook f to c1, very logical move, doubling on the c-file here, but looks like that was just a mistake. I could have grabbed this pawn with queen takes a4, so maybe he needed to do something about that. So instead of rook f c1, what's the best move here? Rook to a1 again. Yeah, defending his a-pawn. Okay, but he played rook f to c1, and I went rook to c8 challenging it. I wasn't noticing this this exchange here. So I didn't find the best move there, but he takes, and I took with the bishop. I want to keep the queen on this active post. Well, I can't take with the queen. Yeah, that was the only way to take. Sorry. He goes queen to c2, doubling on my bishop. So he's just threatening to take that and mate me. And but I can interpose with the rook. And now this is yes, that queen c2 move was a mistake. His best way to continue here is queen d1, hitting my rook and indirectly defending his pawn. Okay, so this was his next to last mistake, rook c3, and now he needs to move his queen to the side. He probably intended, I looked at this afterwards, he probably intended to play something like queen b2 or queen d2. So the engine, let's just show how it might have gone. Queen d2 is the best way to play it. And then I take, he takes, and then bishop to a6. Okay, getting my bishop free so I can take the a pawn. Queen to d1, holding on to the a pawn. Queen to b7, getting behind the b pawn. So I guess I'm just threatening to push this pawn forward and I have this pawn blockaded. So it's an even material endgame with queens on. Very interesting play. This position apparently favors black, but it's not so obvious. Maybe the knight's just going to have a little trouble finding useful employment, and this threat, the threat of my b pawn queening is more dangerous than white's threat of his a pawn queening. So that's how the game might have continued. Instead, he played the move queen to a2, while protecting his pawn. But maybe that was just a mouse slip too. I'm not sure. But he resigned immediately after rook takes c1 here. And that's how the game ended. So pretty interesting. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.